Greetings, everyone. I am Capt. Pankaj Pahil. With 17 years of experience training pilots across the globe, I am here to guide you through the intricacies of the DGCA syllabus.
Discipline is the bridge between a good pilot and a safe landing. Welcome to today's ground school session. Let's look at the boards and dive into the technicalities. For our session today, we've got a strict zero-skip policy. We are covering 5 key areas. Number 1, G-forces and pilot limits. 2, medical rules and timelines. 3, disorientation master rules. 4, lethal in-flight illusions. And 5, approach and landing hazards. So let's jump right in. Section 1. G-forces and pilot limits, focusing specifically on your physiological tolerance. Now, human cardiovascular anatomy, it's really built for a 1G head-up world. But the moment you bank that aircraft or execute a sharp maneuver, the physics completely change. Let's look at what actually takes a physical toll on your body when you push those limits.
Let's talk about the positive G cascade. The core concept here is that when you pull positive Gs, blood is quite literally pulled downward, draining away from your head. In application, you'll experience a physiological sequence we memorize as WMOTGB. Your weight increases, mobility is impaired, organs are displaced, and then it gets really dangerous. Tunnel vision, gray out, and finally, blackout. Say you hit 5 Gs in a sharp aerobatic pullout, your cerebral perfusion fails entirely. Here's your DGCA exam tip. You absolutely must memorize the exact order of those 6 effects, along with the 6 G tolerance killers: alcohol, smoking, fatigue, excessive heat, obesity, and sickness.
Now contrast that with negative G. There's a massive physiologic asymmetry here. While positive G pulls blood down, negative G violently shoves it right up into your head. The concept here is that this causes a readout. Ocular pressure spikes, your face flushes, eyes literally bulge. The scary part? The body has absolutely zero compensatory mechanisms for negative G. How does this apply in the cockpit? It's usually blind panic. You pull out of a steep dive, feel like the nose is too high, and your instinct is to violently shove the control column forward. Here is your exam tip. That instinctive forward push reflex is a lethal trap, and it's a highly probable question on your test. Moving on to Section 2, Medical Rules and Timelines, highlighting ground-based regulatory constraints. We're shifting gears now from aerial maneuvers to ENT, that's ear, nose, and throat hazards, and those incredibly strict DGCA wait before flying medical regulations. The primary concept driving this dynamic is Boyle's law. As your cabin altitude rises, the ambient pressure drops, and any trapped gas inside you expands. So for the application, if you've got dental issues like defective tooth restorations, pulpitis, or cysts, that expanding gas pushes violently against the tooth nerve. We call this intense pain barodontalgia. If this hits you mid-flight, your immediate fix is to descend to a lower altitude, where the pressure is higher. And for your DGCA exam tip, memorize the strict 48 to 72-hour no-fly window following major dental work. They love testing that exact time frame. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the wait before flying master timeline. 12 hours for a local anesthetic or rapid decompression, 24 hours for alcohol or diving, 48 hours for a general anesthetic or blood donation, and up to 72 hours for major dental work. The trap they set for you on the exam, confusing that 12-hour local anesthetic rule with the 48-hour general anesthetic rule. Burn this timeline into your long-term memory, folks. It's guaranteed marks. Section 3. Disorientation Master Rules. This is the primary directive for spatial survival. Listen up, because we are entering the most operationally lethal block of the syllabus. Spatial disorientation is a dead serious subject. If you look at every single aviation jurisdiction's database, a huge chunk of fatal accidents come down to one tragic thing: a pilot acting on what their body felt while completely ignoring what their instruments were telling them. So here is the absolute cardinal rule of aviation survival. The second you suspect disorientation, you face a binary choice. If you're in IMC, instrument meteorological conditions, like a thick cloud or a pitch-black night, you must believe and concentrate purely on those instruments. You have to force yourself to override that seat-of-the-pants feeling. But if you're in VMC, visual meteorological conditions, look outside at the horizon to re-anchor yourself. Trust me, there is no third option. Why does our body betray us like this? It's a mismatch between what you see and what your vestibular system feels. I need you to lock this specific number in your brain: 0.1 to 2 hertz. Vibration within that exact frequency band is the primary trigger for vestibular mismatch and motion sickness. It's a critical safety limit and an absolute favorite DGCA probe question. All right, Section 4, lethal inflate illusions, focusing on otolith misinterpretations. Let's break down the exact acceleration illusions that trick your inner ear, specifically those otoliths during the most critical, high workload phases of your flight. First up, the somatogravic illusion. Conceptually, during takeoff, strong forward acceleration deflects your otoliths backwards, exactly like gravity would if you tilted your head back. Your brain literally can't tell the difference, so it perceives this forward acceleration as a nose-up pitch. In application, imagine a dark night departure over water. You falsely feel like you're pitching up way too steeply. Your exam tip? The deadly reflex here is instinctively pushing the nose down to compensate, which drives the aircraft straight into the water. Know this cold.
Similarly, we have the head-up and head-down illusions. Forward linear acceleration creates that head-up illusion, triggering the dangerous dive reflex we just talked about. But deceleration? Say you deploy speed brakes or drop flaps on final approach. The concept here is that deceleration causes a head-down illusion because your otolith sense a false nose-down pitch. In application, the lethal reflex is instinctively pulling back on the control column. Your exam tip, remember that if you pull back during a low-speed final approach, you risk a catastrophic stall. Next is the elevator illusion, which is entirely about vertical acceleration. If you hit a sudden updraft, it creates this completely false sense of a climb. It's going to tempt you to improperly push the nose down. On the flip side, a sudden downdraft feels like a descent, which triggers a terrible reflex to blindly pull the nose up.
We also have to watch out for the stroboscopic effect, better known as flicker vertigo. Light flickering between 4 and 20 Hz is extremely dangerous. It can produce nausea, dizziness, or even reactions that mimic an epileptic fit. Practically, this often happens on landing in a single-engine plane when you're heading directly into the sun with a throttled-act propeller. The preventative action here? Never stare directly through that prop for more than a brief moment.
And finally, Section 5, approach and landing hazards, specifically visual geometry deceptions. Let's wrap up the technical portion of our masterclass by looking at the visual illusions that violently distort your perception when you are closest to the ground.
The DGCA syllabus explicitly breaks down the visual tasks of an approach into 3 critical stages. 1, the initial judgment of your glide slope. 2, the maintenance of that glide slope using visual angles and texture flow. And 3, making ground proximity judgments based on cues like speed, size, and runway width. During that first stage, the initial judgment, you might run into the black hole effect. This is spatial disorientation that happens on a dark night over completely featureless terrain or water. Because you have a total lack of peripheral visual cues, the runway just looks like it's floating in empty space. And the result? A pilot will consistently fly a dangerously low approach without even realizing it. It's honestly fascinating how runway geometry actively lies to your brain. A wide or upsloping runway, it creates an illusion that you are too low, which prompts a pitch-up reflex and causes a nasty overshoot. Conversely, a narrow or downslipping runway makes you feel too high, prompting a pitch-down reflex, leading to a short, very hard landing. Your absolute standard operating procedure to combat this must be a rigorous instrument cross-check. Always verify your actual glide path against what your eyes think they're seeing. Lastly, let's unpack the deadly inadvertent speed loss trap. If you experience an inadvertent speed loss and slowly lose altitude at the exact same time, the visual angle of the runway remains perfectly constant on your windscreen. The picture looks exactly like a perfectly stable, safe approach. It gives you total confidence right up until you touch down disastrously short of the actual threshold. So, I leave you with this final provocative thought. When your vestibular system lies to you on a dark, rainy IMC approach, and every fiber of your being is screaming that you are pitching up or tumbling backward, will you trust your instincts, or will you command the discipline to trust your instruments? Master the rules, prepare thoroughly, and I wish you exceptional success on your DGCA exams.